Okay, in the last video we looked at solving an equation by completing the square. We're going to do a little more with that. Now there's an important thing that was left out. When we've completed the square, we always have x squared by itself. Our process for completing the square is based off of that model. So with that in mind, if we have a coefficient in front of our squared term like we have in this problem, then we have to begin the problem by dividing by it. Everything gets divided by 4 on both sides. That way we now have an equation that has just an x squared. It doesn't have like a 2x squared or anything like that. We have to have just x squared for our completing the square process to work. At that point, we then recognize our middle term. Now this one already had the x's by themselves, so we didn't have to do that step. So we now recognize our middle term. It's a 12. Remember what we did is we divided by 2 to figure out what the b was. Well, here we can do that. Just realize that we just take that number, divide by 2, or multiply by a half. That's usually what I do, is think of it as multiplying by a half. So when I multiply by a half, I get 6. 6 squared is 36. So to turn x squared plus 12x into a square, I need to add a 36. And if I'm going to do that, I have to do that to both sides of the equation. Okay, now the left-hand side, the x squared plus 12x plus 36, because we completed the square, it can be factored. So it's x plus 6 squared equals 39. And now we can take the square to both sides. Now if you want to leave out the step where you write it as absolute value and just drop it and make the plus or minus on the other side, as long as you understand why that's happening, if you want to leave that step out, you can. I would do that here. So I have x plus 6. Again, it was really absolute value, but I dropped it, so the plus or minus goes to the other side. Now square root of 39 is a square root. I would try to simplify it like we did back in the unit on radicals. But no square goes into 39. Because 39 is just 3 times 13. Neither one of those are squares. So that actually can't be simplified. So at this point we want to get the x by itself, so we bring the 6 over by subtracting it, and then we can just leave our answer like that. We don't want a decimal answer. We want to keep it exact, because then if somebody did need the decimal answer, they could get it to whatever level of accuracy they need. Okay, let's consider a second example. This time we do have to do some work to get the equation in the right format to start using our completing the square, so we take the 2 and subtract it off. Now I did something a little extra here, so let me back up. So now that it's by itself, we need to get the x squared to be just an x squared. So that's why you saw me divide by 2. Now we have x squared minus 5/2 x. And a lot of people see that 5/2 and say, oh no, start freaking out because it's a fraction. We still do it the same way. Whatever that number is, we take half of that number. It's 5/4. We then take that answer, 5/4 in this case, and we square it. That's what we're going to have to add. Even though that middle term's a fraction, we still have a number that we can add. We add that to both sides. Okay. Now the stuff on the left-hand side, the x squared minus 5/2 x plus 25/16, that can be factored as x plus b, or in this case, since I see that I made a little mistake here. Didn't change anything that we did, but really important here. That's actually a minus sign, and that should be a minus sign on this answer. Okay. So the b is negative 5/4. Because it's negative, when we factor that now, we'll factor that as x minus 5/4 quantity squared. And then we have negative 1 plus 25/16. So we'd get a common denominator, 16. Negative 1 would be negative 16 over 16. Negative 16 plus 25 would be positive 9 over 16. At this point we can take the square root of both sides. And so we do just that. Now the square root of x minus 5/4 squared will again be absolute value, but if you want to drop that and just write x minus 5/4 and make sure to bring the plus or minus to the other side, you can. And then we have square root of 9/16. Well, to do a square root of a fraction, you just do the square root of each piece. Square root of 9 over the square root of 16. Square root of 9 is 3. Square root of 16 is 4. So at this point we have x minus 5/4 equals plus or minus 3/4. So we want to get x by itself, so we bring the 5/4 over. And now if this had been like the last problem where that plus or minus part involves some kind of radical, we just leave it like that. But because we actually can add 5/4 and 3/4, we go ahead and do that. So first off we do 5/4 plus 3/4. 5 plus 3 is 8. 8 over 4 is 2. So first answer is x equals 2. And then we do it the other way. 5/4 minus 3/4. 5 minus 3 is 2. So we get x equals 2/4, which is simplified to 1/2. And that is not a negative sign there. That is just the 1/2. It was just a typo there. Okay? And so we have our two answers, 2 and 1/2. So hopefully these examples will help you as you're trying to solve problems by completing the square. Till next time.